You are standing in the produce aisle right now, picking through a clamshell of baby arugula that costs more per pound than the steak in the next case. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a quiet voice is asking why. Why is this so expensive? Why does the bag feel less than the weight it advertises? Why is it wilted already when the package is dated tomorrow? You walk out paying $8 for what amounts to a handful of leaves, and you tell yourself that is just what greens cost. It is not what greens cost. That is what convenience cost. Greens you grew yourself, picked 20 minutes before dinner, cost you a packet of seed. And the reason most people do not grow them is not because it is hard, it is because the modern garden culture has quietly retrained everyone into believing that meaningful harvests take 2 months, 3 months, 4 months of patient waiting under a hot summer sky. Tomatoes, peppers, squash. The whole inheritance we got taught was the long season inheritance, and we absorbed it without noticing that there is a different inheritance, older, faster, and most of us lost it. Let me bring it back. There used to be a time, not that long ago, in gardening memory, when the first food from a kitchen garden arrived at the table inside 3 weeks of planting. The early spring patch fed the family before the long season crops even thought about flowering. Gardeners knew 5, 6, 7 quick crops by heart, and they sowed them in overlapping succession, so there was never a week the kitchen was buying greens. That knowledge quietly fell out of the curriculum that gets passed around now. It fell out because the seed catalogs got bigger, the hybrids got marketed louder, and the slow season crops got the attention. The 30-day crops got relegated to a throwaway sentence at the back of the catalog, and almost nobody talks about them anymore. That is the loss. And it is the loss I want to walk you back through, because once you remember these 5 crops, your garden feeds you inside a month. Not next season, this month. From seed to plate in some cases faster than your last grocery run. The first fast crop is the one that any old gardener would put at the top of the list, and it is the one almost no new gardener plants anymore. Radish. A round red radish from seed to harvest in 25 days. 25. You can read that twice and still not believe it, but it is true, and it has been true for as long as humans have been growing vegetables. The modern reluctance to plant radish comes from one bad memory. Someone ate a radish once that was hot, pithy, fibrous, almost inedible, and they concluded that radishes taste bad. They never came back. But the radish did not taste bad because it is a radish. It tasted bad because it was left in the ground 3 weeks too long. Radish is a clock. You plant it, you watch it, you pick it the day it tells you it is ready, and you eat it that night. That is the whole game. Sow radish seed a ½ inch deep, an inch apart, in a row, in any bed that gets 4 hours of sun. Water it once a day for the first week. After that, water when the top of the soil goes dry. In 12 days, you will see the half-formed shoulders of the bulbs pushing up through the surface. By day 21, they are pulling away from the soil on their own. By day 25 to 28, they are exactly the size you want. Pull them, wash them, slice them thin onto a piece of bread with a touch of butter and salt, and you will taste what a radish is supposed to taste like when it has been grown with attention rather than abandoned in the patch. The radish lesson is not really about radish. It is about trusting the harvest window, the seed packet promises, instead of waiting for the plant to look bigger. Fast crops punish patience. Quick plants reward the gardener who pulls them right on schedule. The second fast crop is the one that earns its place almost any day of the year, in almost any climate, in a pot, or a bed, or a window box. Arugula. Arugula goes from seed to harvest leaf in roughly 3 weeks. The flavor is peppery, almost nutty when young, with the kind of bite that store arugula has lost, because store arugula sits in transit for 4 or 5 days before you ever see it. The homegrown arugula has no such delay. You pick it 20 minutes before the plate, and the flavor hits you with a brightness that the clamshell cannot reproduce at any price. That is the difference. That is why growing it changes how you eat. The trick with arugula is succession sowing. Do not plant the whole packet at once. Plant a short row every 10 days from early spring through late fall. Arugula handles cool weather better than almost any other leafy crop. It handles light frost. It handles the cool edge of summer when heat-sensitive lettuces bolt. Plant it, leave the row alone except for water, and in 21 to 28 days you are cutting outer leaves with a pair of scissors, and the plant is still going. Arugula is a cut-and-come-again crop. you do not pull the whole plant when you harvest. You cut leaves from the outside, 3 or 4 leaves at a time, and the plant keeps pushing new growth from the center for another month, often 2. One short row of arugula, succession sown, can keep a household in salad greens from April until October with very little effort and almost no grocery money. The third fast crop is the one most people already know, but plant at the wrong time of year: baby leaf lettuce. A head of crisp lettuce takes 60 days. A baby leaf crop, sown thickly and harvested young, takes 28 to 30 days. The difference is not the variety, the difference is the spacing. When you broadcast lettuce seed across a patch at high density and never thin it, the plants come up in a tight green mat. They push each other outward a little, they never form a true head, and at 3 to 4 weeks of age they are perfect baby leaves, the kind the bagged salad industry has convinced you cost $8 a pound to buy. They are not. They cost you a pinch of seed. Sow the seed thickly, rake it in lightly, water it twice a day for the first week so the surface does not crust over. By day 10, you have a carpet of seedlings. By day 20, the carpet has thickened. By day 28, you can take a pair of scissors, cut the entire mat down to 1 inch above the soil, and walk into the kitchen with a bowl of mixed baby leaves. The patch will regrow a partial second cut in another 2 weeks, sometimes a third if the weather stays cool. 3 cuttings from a single sowing. That is what the bagged salad industry is selling you, except they are selling you theirs after 2 or 3 days of transit, and you can grow yours at home with the light still on the leaves. Now the variety matters less than the timing. Pick a heat-tolerant leaf lettuce for spring and summer sowings, a cold-tolerant one for fall. Avoid heading lettuces if you want this fast. Heading lettuces are the slow path. Baby leaf is the fast path. The fourth fast crop is one most modern gardens have quietly abandoned, even though it makes a harvest possible in just 2 weeks. Microgreens, or if you do not want the fuss of microgreens, just quick mustard greens harvested as baby leaves. Mustard greens as a baby leaf crop are edible in 18 to 21 days from sowing. The flavor is sharper than spinach, gentler than raw mustard seed, and they cook down in about 90 seconds when added to a stir-fry or a soup. The fast version is not the giant Savoy mustard you see in the grocery store, which takes 45 days. The fast version is the baby mound of tender green pulled young. Sow thick, cut young. The same logic as lettuce baby leaves, applied to a more assertive flavor. If you want true microgreens, which are harvested at the cotyledon stage, you are looking at 12 to 15 days from sowing to harvest. Trays, a thin layer of potting mix, a heavy broadcast of seed, a humidity dome for the first 3 days, a grow light or a bright windowsill, and you are cutting a crop you can sell at a farmer's market for $15 a tray. Once you know the rhythm, microgreens become a year-round indoor crop that costs you almost nothing, and they are the single fastest edible harvest you can produce on a kitchen counter. The fifth fast crop is the one that will give you a harvest in 2 to 3 weeks without even starting from seed right now, because you can get there with the parts of green onions you would otherwise throw away, green onions from sets, or from kitchen scraps regrown in water. If you buy a bunch of green onions at the store, the white roots at the bottom, the part most people cut off and discard, are a complete harvest waiting to happen. Set those roots in a glass of water, change the water every other day, and in 5 to 7 days you have new green tops tall enough to cut. Plant those same roots in a pot of soil after they have sprouted once, and they will keep producing green tops for the next 2 to 3 months. No further input required. From kitchen scrap to first cut, about a week. If you want a cleaner run from the start, buy a packet of green onion sets, the small dried bulbs you can find at any garden center in spring. Press each bulb into the soil surface, an inch apart, in a row. Keep the soil moist. In roughly 20 to 25 days, you are pulling slender green onions with white shanks about 4 inches long, the kind that cost $1 a bunch at the store, and contribute nothing to the dinner until you remember they exist. Green onions are quiet. They do not announce themselves. They sit in a corner of the bed or in a pot on the patio, and they keep giving. A single small patch of green onions will produce a usable harvest every 2 to 3 weeks through the entire growing season, if you trim them right and let them regrow from the base. They are the closest thing a vegetable garden has to a renewable resource, and they are the cheapest harvest per square foot of any crop I grow. There is one more fast crop I want to mention, because it does not get listed in the standard 5, but it deserves a place at the table. Spinach, Baby leaf style. Spinach as a baby leaf crop is harvestable roughly 28 to 30 days from sowing to first cut, and it handles cool weather almost as well as arugula. The flavor of homegrown baby spinach is sweeter and less metallic than any grocery store spinach because the leaves are picked at the peak rather than cut days before you see them. The trick is the same as lettuce. Broadcast the seed, do not thin, harvest young with scissors, and leave the crown. Spinach bolts in heat, so it is a spring and fall crop, not a summer crop. But in those windows, it is in the same class as the rest of the fast food garden. It is the sixth crop, the bonus one, and it slots into the bed wherever you have a spare square foot. Now, let me put these together the way old gardeners used to put them together. The trick was not that any one of these is fast. The trick is that all of them grow in roughly the same window, on roughly the same watering schedule, and they stack inside the same bed in overlapping succession. So while your tomato seedlings are still hardening off on the porch in May, your radishes are already harvested, your arugula is in its third succession, your baby lettuce has had 2 cuttings, your mustard greens are at the second wave, and your green onions are 6 weeks into their regrowth cycle. You have been eating from your garden, not buying greens at the store, for the entire spring and early summer. By the time the slow crops come in, the kitchen has not bought a bag of salad in months. That is the lost inheritance. That is what gardeners used to know, and what a generation of slowly retold advice about tomatoes and peppers quietly buried. Now the practical recovery, the way you bring this back into your own kitchen garden this week, regardless of where you live or what your soil looks like. Pick a bed. A 4x4 raised bed is ideal. A row in an in-ground garden works. A long, deep window box works. A collection of 3 to 5 gallon pots on a patio works. The fast crops do not care much about scale. They care about drainage and a little sun, at least 4 hours a day, ideally morning sun. Rake the surface flat. Do not dig deep. The fast crops put down shallow roots, and they want a soft, even surface to germinate into. Compost on the surface is perfect. Aged manure raked in is perfect. Fresh manure is not. Bagged potting mix is fine, but not necessary. Sow 1/4 of the bed with radish, 1/4 with arugula, 1/4 with a mixed baby lettuce blend, 1/4 with mustard greens. In a pot at the corner of the bed, push a handful of green onion sets into the soil an inch apart, or take the white roots from your next store-bought bunch and set them in shallow water for a week before transplanting them into the same pot. Water twice a day until germination. Then water when the surface goes dry. Walk away from the bed except to look at it. You will see germination inside 4 to 7 days for all 5 crops. Radishes will be the first noticeable green. Arugula will be the second. Lettuce will be the third. Mustard and green onions will follow. By day 21, you are cutting your first arugula. By day 25, you are pulling your first radish. By day 28, you are cutting the entire lettuce patch. The mustard is 2 weeks behind the lettuce, ready at day 35 or so. The green onions are steady through the entire run, waiting to be cut whenever you need them. That is the whole recovery. 1 bed, 1 afternoon of sowing, 30 days of harvesting. There are a few details that matter if you want this to feel as easy as it does when described. First, succession. Do not stop at the first sowing. Sow a new short row of radish every 10 days until midsummer. Sow a new short row of arugula every 10 days until about 3 weeks before your first fall frost. The 25-day window only delivers a continuous harvest if you keep planting into it. Second, micro sprinklers or a watering can with a fine rose is better than a hard hose spray for the first 10 days. The fast crops germinate from very small seed near the surface, and a hard spray will literally blast them out of the bed before they root. Gentle watering, every morning for the first week, then backing off to every other day. Third, fertilize once, lightly, at about day 14. A fish emulsion diluted per the bottle, sprayed on the leaves, or watered into the soil. The fast crops use a small amount of nutrition very quickly and benefit from a single mid-cycle feeding. Fourth, do not thin the lettuce, mustard, or arugula. Plant them thick and let them push each other. The competition is what gives you the baby leaf texture. If you thin them out to give individual plants room, you have switched to a slow crop without realizing it. Fifth, when you cut the lettuce or arugula, leave at least an inch of growth above the soil. The crown of the plant is what regrows. Cut too low, and you cut the future harvest off. Sixth, pull radishes the moment they show their shoulders. Do not wait a few more days to see if they get bigger. They will not get better. They will get worse. Those 6 details are the difference between a 30-day harvest and a 60-day disappointment. They are not hard. They are mostly the discipline of doing the steps in the right order. If you only have a small patio or even a windowsill, scale this down to pots and a tray. 1 10-inch pot for arugula, 1 10-inch pot for lettuce, 1 short row of radishes in a window box, 1 small pot for green onion sets, 1 microgreen tray on the kitchen counter. That is a fast food garden that produces real food in 30 days or less, and it is the most honest reply to the question of what gardening actually does for a household. There is also a financial layer worth naming, because it is the layer that made the difference between my own kitchen growing a small fast food garden and buying bagged greens every week. A packet of radish seed costs about $2 and contains roughly 200 seeds. A packet of arugula is similar. A packet of mixed baby lettuce is similar. 1 green onion bunch is $2 or $3. That is roughly $10 of seed and starts, and it produces more food over the season than 3 months' worth of bagged greens at $8 a pop. The math is not subtle. The math is the quiet confession of the modern garden culture that I want you to walk away with. Slow season crops have their place. Tomatoes and peppers and winter squash are worth waiting for. Nobody is arguing against them. But the slow season crops should never be the whole diet of a gardener, and they should never be the first experience a new gardener has. New gardeners need a fast win. A real win. Greens on the plate 25 days after the seed went in the ground, harvested with a pair of scissors, and served without ever brushing the refrigerator aisle. That win teaches a different thing than a tomato teaches. It teaches that gardening is a source of food this month, not this season. It teaches that a small bed is enough. It teaches that the kitchen can be quietly growing salad and stir-fry base and garnish in the corner while the long crops are still settling in. That is the inheritance that almost got lost, and it is the one I want you to recover. Here is a small thing that moved me when I learned it, and it is the kind of detail that says more about the old inheritance than any list of vegetables. In the kitchens of working homesteads a century ago, the fast spring patch was not a luxury. It was a living expense line. The greens that came up in April paid for the seed for the rest of the garden. It is hard to overstate how much of the practical budget of a working garden was carried by these quick crops. They bridged the season between the cellar stores of winter and the first harvest of the slow crops. They were not a side project. They were the financial backbone of the kitchen garden, and they were bred and kept by families for that reason, not for fun. That context is lost now. The slow season inheritance has carried the narrative for so long that most gardeners under 30 have never heard the other side. They think a real garden is the one that takes until August to produce. They think fast crops are a beginner stage. They think of radishes and arugula as the appetizer before the real vegetables show up. That mental model inverts what the old gardener knew. The fast crops were the real food. The slow crops were the preservation foods. Both had a job. The fast patch fed the table. The slow patch fed the pantry. Once you see it that way, the order of the season reorders itself in your head. The April bed is not a starter bed. It is the month 1 income of the gardening year. The August bed is the month 6 income. Both matter. But only one of them feeds your dinner tonight, and if you forget the first one, the second one will not show up either, because the gardener runs out of motivation before the long crops come in. That is the deeper reclaiming, the one I want to leave you with. Not 5 vegetables to plant this month. A whole mental model to recover, where the fast patch is the foundation of the gardening year, not the warm-up. Now, one last thing before you go. The 5 vegetables I walked you through are the safest fast crops I know, the ones that work in almost any climate and almost any soil. But there is another layer that most modern gardens skip entirely, where the fast crops get even faster if you give them one extra trick. Pre-soaking the seed in damp paper towel inside a sealed plastic bag for 24 hours before you sow. The trick is small, costs nothing, and cuts germination time by roughly 1/3 in cold soil. It is not magic. It is the same pre-sprouting logic that works on ginger rhizomes, applied to lettuce, arugula, radish, and mustard seed. In the next video, I want to walk through that trick in detail, plus the one mistake almost everyone makes with their radish patch that turns a 25-day crop into a 50-day crop without them noticing. Let me know in the comments whether you are planting radishes, arugula, or baby lettuce first this week, because the answer changes which mistake I lead with. Tell me what you are actually planting, and I will see you in the next one.